MagMongoSlade here to discuss AEW Dynamite from Wednesday, September 27th, 2023. We got a lot to discuss. We got to do Wrestle Dream predictions. That's going to be at the end of the show. We're going to start with some news and notes, and then we're going to get into the go-home show of AEW Dynamite. So, let's start news and notes. Okay, the first note has been this new screenshot that's floating around. So a random Twitter account posted a screenshot that supposedly corrects the previous All-In attendance record. So apparently, according to this Twitter account, somebody in a Facebook group, an unnamed Facebook group, that should tell you right now what's going on here. An unnamed person in an unnamed Facebook group posted a screenshot of an answer to an email that they supposedly sent to the Brent Borough Council in London, England, in which this person says, quote, "Further to your query, I confirm the attendance at this event was 85,528. I hope this was helpful. This was, of course, for Wembley Stadium attendance wrestling." Now, it doesn't say AEW All In. It also is not a link at all. We don't know who sent the question. We don't know what the question was. But this was enough for many wrestling journalists to just run with the article that the AEW All In attendance is now 85,528, which is even higher than what it was announced as. Now, this has caused a lot of confusion because now so many people are like, LOL, not only is Will Ospreay's tattoo still wrong, but now the 72,000 was also wrong. And now people are saying, well, this says attendance. What we were talking about in terms of the 72,000 were people walking through the turnstiles. So now everybody's trying to split the baby. They're trying to say, well, the 81,000 is the amount of tickets sold. The 85,000 that's coming from this Chris White fellow is the total attendance. Everybody in the building, including janitors and other staff. And the 72,000 are the amount of fans that showed up. And I say all of this is bunk. You cannot prove that this email is real. You don't know who sent it. You don't know what the question is. If you actually read this, it does not even mention AEW All In. All right? We don't know where this came from. We just have no information. Now, because wrestling media are so thirsty for information, instead of just saying, this is a screenshot, we're not going to follow up on this, WrestleNomics actually emailed the guy, this Chris White, who is the Director of Environment and Leisure at the Brent Council. We await the response. But I don't see why anybody's taking this thing seriously if you actually just read it. It does not say Wembley Stadium attendance for AEW All In or nothing like that. And we don't know who sent it. We don't even have a link to the Facebook article or the Facebook group that this was posted in. We don't have anything. But again, there's people who are searching for wins even under the cushions of the couch. It is what it is. All right. I don't even care anymore. It doesn't matter. But if you've seen this and you probably wanted to know what my thoughts were on the subject, now you know. I don't care. And I'm looking at it, and a critical eye would say, unless you have a source for this, it's bullshit. All right? Period. There's no source. There's no information for this thing, okay? Next, Malachi Black put out a video. In said video, he addressed why he hasn't been working singles matches. He says not because he's had a bad back. It's that, basically him and the House of Black are being used to bolster the trios division. And he talked about some minor leg injuries, like a hyperextended knee or some other stuff. But basically said It's not because he has an injured back that he hasn't been working singles matches. I don't see why he needed to come out and mention this. I don't see why this matters. I don't think that wrestlers need to address everything, even stuff that's about them. I don't think it needs to be addressed. It's okay to not address things, It's okay to leave things just as gossip that the internet can run with. So I don't think it matters that much. But thank you a lot, Malachi Black, because for Christ's sake, what would we think if you... But people have broken it down. They say he's only had 10 singles matches and he's been there for 2 years. And I really had not thought about that. But it sounds true to me. It sounds true that he's only had a few singles matches. 3 of those matches were with Cody, I think. And that's crazy. That's crazy. But take that up with Booker of the Year, bro. It's Booker of the Year. Take it up with him. Speaking of Booker of the Year, because Jade Cargill jumped ship to WWE and they've been rolling out the red carpet, there's been some chitter chatter about who's next. And one of the people that was mentioned was Wardlow. Wardlow has been off TV for a really long time. An absurd amount of time. And he has gone on record as saying, bruh, I ain't injured. I'm not injured. I'm just not being used. So it's almost like the wrestling media want everybody to pay attention. So they reminded Tony Khan that Wardlow was on the roster. And he says, quote, Wardlow is a great star for us. He's been one of the greatest TNT champions and a great star. I'm a very big fan of Wardlow, and he will surely be back on AEW TV when the time is right. And he's still very much a part of what we're doing here. Is that so? Wardlow is still a pretty big part of what you're doing here, despite the fact that you don't use him. You had to be reminded that he was there. I mean, these guys signing these 10-year contracts, and I don't know, they're still kind of fairly young in the business, and you sign yourself to some kind of 7 or 8 year deal, and then now you spend so much time sitting at home. What's the point? Just for you to go work GCW shows? Like, what the hell, man? Is that, what is that? But that wasn't even the part of the interview that interests me. What interests me is when Tony Khan was asked point blank about Warner Bros. Discovery owning a piece of AEW. So this is from the Wrestling Observer Twitter account. Asked if Warner Bros. Discovery owns a piece of AEW or if there are negotiations. Tony Khan said they have talked about it, but he owns and wants to control 100% of the voting stock and decision making. He is open to partners and Warner Bros. Discovery having a piece or bigger piece in future negotiations. Would have to be at the right numbers and be right for AEW. Khan has no interest in giving up control, however. Okay, that's not an answer to the question, right? Saying that you want 100% of the voting stock. Voting stock of what exactly? What are we voting on? Like governance? Like, there's no board. What's the board of directors? It's not a public company. There's no board. What are we voting on? Okay. So let's take them at face value that Warner Bros. Discovery does not currently own a piece of AEW. Let's take that face value. But he's interested in it if it makes sense for AEW. And he'd be willing to do it. But he doesn't want to give up control. So that means he's willing to sell a minority stake of AEW to Warner Brothers. Let's say 10%, 15%. But he wants to keep 100% of the voting stock. Voting on what? I don't know. But methinks he already has done this. Okay, yeah, I think it's already been done. I think that they have a little bit. I think Bischoff said he think they got about 30%. I don't know if it's that much, but I think that Warner Bros. Discovery already got their fingers in the pie. That's just me. You know, my thing is, would it make a difference to anybody if he was to say, you know, look, let's back up a little bit. I'm going to give him credit for answering the question, because that sounds like something that you might have would have said no comment on. You know, it might have been something you would say, no comment. I'm not going to comment on that. It's business related or it's a distraction or whatever. I'm going to give him credit for actually trying to answer it, even though it's not a direct answer. But I think that they probably are going to end up buying into the company. I just think that's the way it's looking from me. Giving him all these shows, and these shows are producing, they're producing a little bit, but not a lot. So the only reason that you would have Collision and Rampage and all these shows being touted as on TBS and TNT whenever they have like even a modest increase is if the corporation already owns some. But we don't know. We have to look at the books of the corporation to know if they actually own a piece of it already. So we don't know that for sure. I'm just saying that I think they probably will. And speaking of owning a piece of things, another piece of business to come out of this Tony Khan media call is that he was asked point blank if he had purchased New Japan Pro Wrestling. Nobody had ever said that New Japan was for sale, but apparently people think that because Wrestle Dream is about honoring Antonio Inoki, that for some reason they believe that Tony Khan has purchased New Japan Pro Wrestling. So from Wrestling Observer newsletter Twitter account, asked about the rumors of him buying New Japan and the end of an era, Khan was surprised to see the speculation and says they have been a great partner. He's glad people are talking about that, but doesn't directly answer the question about what his comments mean. And then later it says that, asked again about his comments, Khan joked he has no intentions of clarifying his end of an era comment because he wants people to buy the pay-per-view. He's unclear where the New Japan rumor got started. So, he's not given a direct answer to whether he's purchased New Japan Pro Wrestling or not. Is it possible? Yes, it's always possible. The guy has incredibly deep pockets. He has some of the deepest pockets in the history of pockets. Very, very deep pockets. He's got Walt Chamberlain's pockets. All right, he's got Andre the Giant's pockets. He can buy whatever he wants. There's not much that is beyond his reach. But the question is, was New Japan even for sale? You know, is it for sale? What is it? What would the Japanese, who have been notorious about not wanting foreigners to own, you know, corporations in Japan, what would they think if a foreigner bought their company? You know, for starters, the idea that Wrestle Dream is about the legacy of Antonio Inoki. Well, Antonio Inoki has not owned New Japan in a long time. It's been a while since he owned New Japan. He did start it. You know, he was the founder. But he hasn't owned it in years. Would it be an honor of Antonio Inoki that Tony Khan would buy New Japan? I guess. But let's say that it's true. Let's go for argument's sake that it's true and that Tony Khan has bought the number 3 wrestling promotion in the world. Without looking at financials of CMLL and AAA, I'm not sure where they stack in this worldwide rankings. So we're just going to say New Japan is number 3. If you didn't like Vince, how could you support this? How could you support Tony Khan buying New Japan? You can't. You know, of course, there'd be a lot of people who would be very hypocritical. Oh, Tony's not going to change the product. He loves the product. He blah, 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 blah. The guy going around buying up promotions because he's got huge pockets. Some of the biggest pockets of all time. I don't think he did, if we're being honest. Do I think that maybe he will get some kind of partnership with New Japan? I mean, on a permanent level, where maybe he has an ownership stake in New Japan. Like, do I think that maybe he could have walked in there and said, I want about 25%? Maybe. You know, again, the Japanese will have to be willing to sell him 25%, but they really want to get into the American market. And they want to get into the American market so badly, they're doing business with MLW. They just announced a CMLL, MLW, New Japan partnership. They want to get in the United States really bad. Do they want to get into the United States bad enough that they want to use Tony Khan as a conduit in order to do so? Maybe. It would be a shrewd business move. But I'm telling you, it would be pretty crazy if he bought New Japan or bought into New Japan. That would be very monopolistic. But I'm not going to complain about it. If they want to sell it to him, sell it to him. What's the big deal? Not a problem. Just keep that same energy for when Vince bought, Evolve. Like people were tripping. Everybody ready to, like, Vince ain't bought a major wrestling promotion in 20 years. Like, think about that. The last major wrestling promotion that he bought was ECW. Everybody else, it was mostly they were dying anyway. Like, he bought the scraps of promotions. He bought the libraries of promotions. He bought the rights to promotions, some of whom had no real value anyway, or people didn't know what the value of the product that they had was, the master tapes or anything like that. This guy's going out here buying active promotions. I don't know. It's been a while since Vince did something like that. In fact, now that I think about it, never done anything like that. He bought ECW out of bankruptcy, and he bought WCW out of pretty much bankruptcy because, the owners didn't want it. So that's a very different thing than coming in and buying it while it's still running. Like, it's one thing when it was winding down anyway to, hey, we're under no financial stress, at least no noticeable financial stress, and we're just going to buy it right now because we can. I don't know. But it's an interesting proposition. All right, so our last note. One more thing before we get into the review. Andrew Zarian of the Mat Men podcast, he's an affiliate of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. This gentleman put out a story saying that AEW was going to be on Max in 2024. Max then released their sports tier, which is $10, and AEW was not on it, which leads to him to revise his report that it's not final, but it's more likely to be Tony Khan's big announcement is that AEW will be available on Max, and they will be expanding their pay-per-view offerings to one per month. And okay, if that is true, and it seems like it's the most likely of all the things that have been pitched out there, him buying New Japan and all this kind of stuff, it seems far more likely that AEW has made some kind of deal with Warner Bros. To air their product on Max. That seems like the most realistic thing possible. It's not over the top. It's a great business move, especially since Peacock has had incredible success with the WWE, despite the fact that they lose money. WWE has done gangbusters for Peacock. Warner Brothers wants to replicate that. I've always said that AEW is going to be Warner Brothers Discovery's WWE. Everybody, they're going to want their own wrestling product. Investing in AEW, growing AEW, is for the best. I would highly suggest Warner Brothers Discovery actually make that deal. I would highly suggest it. Unless Tony Khan is asking for an absurd amount of money that you can't fathom that you're going to make back, I don't see why you wouldn't do it along with the library and all of the pay-per-views that has from this point forward, it seemed like the right thing to do. Especially if they're such great partners, as Tony Khan loves to say, they've been good partners for us. Then be a good partner and put them on Max. Be a good partner. So I think it's the most realistic thing in the world. It wouldn't be that big of a surprise, but it would be great for that fan base because there's another infusion of income. It's more products they're going to be able to produce, and it's better for the health of the industry. Of course, it centralizes AEW and Warner Bros. Discovery, which of course would lead to more discussions about Warner Bros. Discovery maybe having an ownership stake in AEW, which I probably would not put them on Max without an ownership stake, because you don't want to elevate AEW too far and then they vamp and go somewhere else. So you want to have some kind of ownership stake. I know Peacock made the decision to give WWE $5 billion, but they were probably thinking this is a down payment. We're going to end up owning the company eventually, but, and it got swept out from underneath them, which I would bet that NBC is not happy about that. But if you're Warner Brothers, you only make this deal if Tony Khan gives you a percentage. That's what I would do. If Tony Khan is going to give you a percentage and the entirety of the library, then yeah, I would make that deal. If he just wants an absurd amount of money, I would say probably not. And it'd be up to him to make that decision, because he can't keep selling $50 pay-per-views. Eventually, they're going to hit a ceiling. All right. And once you hit that ceiling, it's going to not be worth it anymore. So Tony Khan needs to strike while the iron's hot, and while people are still very excited to pay $50 for their pay-per-views because there's not that many of them. By the time you expand it to 12, people are going to be bitching. They're going to be complaining. They're going to be whining. They're going to say, I don't want to pay $50 for this pay-per-view. They're going to be 100% right to say that. And you're going to get a lower offer, because now you're going to go to Warner Brothers desperate. But if you go out there saying, we only got 5 or 6 pay-per-views a year, we could try to, position these things a little differently, maybe make some more money, and we'll just run independent. But as cable revenues diminish and streaming options become far more available, it might be better to just go ahead and partner up with Warner Bros. Discovery, a company that supposedly already supports you, and go ahead and get in bed with them. Marry the one you went to the dance with. It is what it is. I mean, it's not like everybody else is going to go around here throwing all kinds of cash around. So I like the idea. AEW on Max seems natural to me. All right, now let's get into this show. Phoenix defeated Jeff Jarrett via small package. The crowd was very into this, even though I didn't care. I just don't care. Okay. Jeff Jarrett and this menagerie of people who don't seem to make any sense hanging out with him. I don't get it. This match was what it was. It was very busy. It was just people all over the place. All right. So if that was what you like, fine. Phoenix was trying to murder everybody again by doing high flying moves before the match started. That seems to be his thing. He's going to try to give you a concussion. He's going to try to scramble your brains before the match really starts. Very effective offense from Phoenix. All right. Let's go into the Adam Cole segment. So Adam Cole and MJF, they're out on MJF's dad's boat because Adam Cole celebrating with MJF. MJF is upset because Adam Cole was still speaking to Roderick Strong and saying that, he was so talking to him and you couldn't be ringside with me. He's getting jealous. Very jealous. MJF goes to get some more beer. His back is to, Adam Cole's back is to him. He slips on the Dynamite diamond ring and he's going to punch Adam Cole in the head. And Adam Cole knows exactly what's about to happen here. You're not going to punch me in the back of the head and throw me overboard, are you? And Adam Cole, and MJF was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Why would you think I was going to do that? So now it's time for life lessons with Adam Cole, baby. Max, we can have more than one friend. I can be friends with more than one person. So then MJF is like, well, I'm a one friend guy. So, and you're it, buddy. You're my one friend. But, he's going to accept that Adam Cole is friends with Roderick Strong. So they start fishing. And then they catch this gigantic whale that is wearing red, white, and blue spandex. And it's talking to them. And it's like, he's wearing like I've never seen a whale with a rubber ducky before, like floating in a duck thing. I've never seen that before in my life. But he got the hook out of his blowhole, then climbed onto their boat. How did the boat not lean over with that 130,000 pound fat ass sitting on the end of it? How did that boat not tip over? This is the ship that Baron Corbin should burn. Right here. This ship right here is the one he needs to burn. Because apparently Adam Cole and MJF started drinking with a whale. And I thought I was like, is it just me? Like, it's weird that they're drinking with this whale, but they were. And I'm like, well, we've crossed over into, it's like the Jungle Book or some shit like that, right? Everybody's like friends with animals and stuff. So they were hanging out with whales, man. I don't get it. Whatever. So this, of course, leads us to the promo a little bit later. Adam Cole comes out. He's on crutches. MJF is perfectly fine, even though, he almost got murdered by a big fat guy last week. He's fine. Adam Cole announces that he broke his foot in 3 places. How did he do this? Because he jumped off the ramp last week. It's very bizarre how my big fat ass can jump off anything and have never broken a single bone. These guys, CM Punk, Adam Cole, Phoenix, these guys are in immaculate shape. Rail thin guys. They jump off anything and have broken 17 bones in their foot. That's crazy to me. And it keeps happening. Wild stuff. Just wild stuff. Anyway, he's out. He ain't wrestling at no Wrestle Dream. All right, it ain't happening. So they start talking about relinquishing the tag team titles. MJF is like, nah, I'm not relinquishing nothing. He's going to fight the Righteous by himself in a handicap match. Which, let's be honest, it's stupid. All right, this is dumb. So Roderick Strong, Adam, he comes out and he's in a wheelchair, and the wheelchair has Hot Roddy on the back of it. Phenomenal. All right, big pop. He's wearing a hospital gown. Huge pop. All right, and he's yelling at Adam Cole that he needs him, and it's an emergency. It's an emergency, Adam. Adam. It's an emergency, Adam. And so Adam Cole, on crutches, starts going out there to see what's going on with Roderick Strong. So as soon as he gets to Roderick Strong is like, finally, Daddy's spending time with me. And then the Bullet Club Gold thing starts to play. And I'm like, okay, this is actually all right. Let's see what we got here. So this leads us to this insanely long, seemingly 40-minute promo between Adam Cole and Jay White. Now, I know it was probably half that time. It was probably like, I don't know, was it 20 minutes? Maybe? It was so long. And it started out with, Jay White kind of talking a little shit about MJF. Not much. Not going ham on him or nothing like that. So then MJF cut him off. Called him mid. Say his mic work is mid. Say he's got pubic hair. Public hairs. All of your public hairs. That he got pubic hairs on his chin. Then he said he was offended that people started comparing the two of them. Because he's filet mignon. And when he's on the plate, everything is about him. While Jay White is tofu, you have to add things to him because he extracts all the flavor of the things that you put around him. He starts talking about how Jay White is talented, but he is what some guy in Japan thinks a top guy should be. And that he's a product of having all the opportunities, the cool music and the cool entrance and all of the cool things. But if you take it all away, he's just bland, tasteless tofu. That he's all hype. And I just sat here and was like, damn, he just buried this fucking guy. Like he just, if Jay White might as well just stand there while he shovels sand and dirt on his feet. By the time this promo was over, he was literally waist deep in shit. I didn't know what the hell Jay White could possibly say after any of this to get back over. He says 2 words, the fan starts chanting tofu at him because they don't care what he has to say. So Jay White starts talking about this is what he wanted. He wanted his own individual MJF experience. And he said he felt like, MJF was distracted. He started telling the story about how he's the one that's been the catalyst behind MJF's all of his life been falling apart for the last couple of weeks and all this kind of stuff. It was real. I didn't care about that. And to be quite honest, I wasn't really paying attention, So he starts talking about how the crowd doesn't love MJF like they love Adam Cole. And, MJF is not so elite standing next to the Switchblade. And then he starts going off about how this is his era. He's the Switchblade, main event in Madison Square Garden and the Tokyo Dome and all this kind of stuff. He's just spamming all of his usual catchphrases and nicknames, and he's doing it with style, but there's no substance to it, right? So, of course, he says he's going to be the world champion. It's his era, yada, yada, yada. They getting ready to fight, and then Jay White powders and gets away from MJF. Look, this was really good crisis booking. Adam Cole goes down. You didn't know that was going to happen when you announced the match with the Righteous. So you feel like, we got to scramble. We got to come up with something. Okay, Jay White, MJF, go. That's good crisis booking. If you would have said, well, the Righteous are just going to have to wait for their tag team title match, or, yeah, they will have to just win the titles, or maybe they'll have to face another team in order to maintain the tag team championships or whatever. And then MJF versus Jay White is the match that replaces that on the card. Then I would have said, you know what, that was better than your original plan. Good crisis booking. But that doesn't seem to be what they're doing. See, as the show go off the air, Jay White is getting totaled backstage by a bunch of guys in black suits. And then there's the devil mask appears, and we're supposed to be led to believe that MJF and his cronies have decided to beat the tar out of Jay White. That's what we're supposed to believe. Of course, this doesn't make any sense because why is Jay White by himself? What? I get it. Jay White sent the Bang Bang Gang to the back when he cut that promo, but wouldn't they just be waiting for him right there? Why was he alone? That got to be explained to me. And it's clearly not MJF. So a lot of people think that it's Adam Cole, and it's Adam Cole in the Kingdom. That's possible. And Roderick Strong, that it's going to end up being those guys and maybe one other person. It's impossible that that's going to be the case. And I'm cool with that. Or it could be Bullet Club from Japan guys, in which case I'm not okay with that because I don't like any of those fucking guys. But it's an interesting show closing angle that Jay White stood there talking about, being the king of Bullet Club and all this kind of stuff. He comes out with a group every week, and now all of a sudden he gets his ass beat. The group is nowhere to be found. None of them. Not one body was with him this entire time. I don't necessarily like that, but I do like the idea of a whodunit. Who is this mysterious guy? But I also have to ask the question, am I supposed to feel bad for Jay White? Because he is a heel. Am I supposed to feel bad? How am I supposed to feel outside of who did this? How am I supposed to feel about it? Is this person a babyface and did this out of love and appreciation? Or is this person a heel and did it because they're a dickhead? I don't know. And maybe we'll never know. So there were some elements there that I liked and some elements that I didn't like. I like the idea of MJF and Jay White because I like Jay White. But as much as I like Jay White, I have criticized Jay White for the Bullet Club stuff. Because to me, it was incredibly lazy that they just had him do Bullet Club in the United States. Instead of reinventing the guy, having him do something else, they just said, well, he was doing Bullet Club in Japan, he's going to do Bullet Club here. And that's just going to get you so far because you're just doing the same stuff you was already doing. You all right? If you peaked with the Bullet Club shit in Japan, how is that any different when the same audience is watching that stuff? It's not a completely different audience. If it was WWE, you could at least say most of that audience is different. In AEW, most of that audience is the same. So they've already seen all of this. It's my era. They've already seen all that stuff. All right. So a lot of the New Japan Pro Wrestling fans who have been gassing Jay White for 4 years or 5 years now, ever since Kenny Omega left. Jay White's the best wrestler in the world. Oh, he's so good at everything. He's having 5-star classic matches. And now all of a sudden, they're very, very quiet about how he's being booked in AEW. Very quiet. Extremely quiet. You know, church at a funeral quiet about how he's being booked in AEW. But I like Jay White. I knew he wasn't going to be able to come back from this MJF hole he got put in. It's just not his skill set to be able to verbally joust with MJF on that level. So this is all about putting MJF over. So now what do we do? The right answer would have been to have the Bang Bang Gang beat the shit out of MJF. But they went with seemingly with the reverse. That MJF having some goons beat up Jay White. But of course it's going to end up not being MJF. It's going to end up being somebody else. But this better be big. This better be good. I'll tell you that. I like that they're doing this, but it better be good. If the punchline from this thing is no good, then we're going to have a problem. But poor Jay White, it's very unfortunate what's happening to this guy. Very unfortunate. All right, next. Don Callis and Takeshita are hunting Ibushi in Tokyo. That's what we were told. And then suddenly they were in the arena. I'm like, wait a minute. I thought these guys were in Tokyo. So Don Callis says he introduces Sammy Guevara, which they already did on Rampage. Whatever. He said Sammy Guevara is free of Jericho's toxic influence. Then they threw to a video of Don Callis and Takeshita attacking Kota Ibushi and Ibushi's dojo in Japan. This made Takeshita look like one of the worst fighters ever as he was getting his ass kicked. Look, he's a heel, I get it. But Takeshita has a bit of an aura about him. This is the guy who beat Kenny Omega twice and all this kind of stuff. Even in singles matches, he beat him. It would have been nice if he'd have been able to hang with Ibushi. He was getting washed, all right? He was basically in fetus position. He had to get saved by Don Callis. They end up hitting Ibushi in the head with a kettlebell, which is a lethal object. You know, that shit heavy. It's like 15 pounds. You know? Like you might say, well, 15 pounds, that's not a lot. If you get hit in the head with a 15-pound metal piece of work here, you're going to be more than knocked out. You're talking about broken skull. All right? And that's what they did here. They hit Kota Ibushi in the head with a kettlebell and then choked him with Takeshita's jacket. At least I think so. So they went into Ibushi's house and they beat him up. And then Don Callis yelled at him, "You're not safe in Tokyo. You're not safe in Seattle. You're not safe anywhere when it comes to the Don Callis family." And I got to tell you, I nodded at that. I like that. You're not safe anywhere. We will find you anywhere. You know, I like that. Heel said they were going to do something. They went and goddamn did it. All right. They said they was going to find that man and stab him in the heart. Stab Kenny Omega in the heart. And they went and did it. Not like Ibushi was hiding from them. But still, they went and did it. Good. Then we got to this terrible Sammy Guevara promo where his voice kept breaking up. God, I hate Sammy Guevara. He starts talking about how Jericho's holding him back, and we already went through this, all right? Said he thought that Jericho was going to pass him the torch, but he wasn't. And said he's got to take the torch. I'm like, how about you jump in the damn torch? I mean, the Muhammad Ali Olympic torch, that big giant torch, throw Sammy Guevara bitch ass on over in it. I can't stand this son of a bitch. He can't talk for nothing. He can't talk for nothing in this world. Damn! He got some of the worst promo skills of all time. Don Callis is good. Takeshita is good. The attack on the school, they literally just did this with AR Fox and all these guys. That kind of takes away from it for me. But this was something Don Callis said he was going to do. He's going to rip out the beating heart of Kenny Omega. So he did it. So I'm going to give them a +1 for doing what they said they were going to do. But I'm going to take away a 0.5 because they just did this with Nick Wayne. So it's still a plus. But I got to take some points away because they literally just did this not long ago. So it's still a positive. And you're going to get a -15 for fucking Sammy Guevara. I can't stand that guy. All right, so Ricky Starks backstage. He cut a promo. He said that he might not have won, but he survived. He didn't tap out. He wasn't pinned. And then he's trying to make a positive out of this whole getting beat by Bryan Danielson thing. When he got confronted by the runt of the group, Wheeler Yuta, who got in his face, apologized for assaulting him after the match. Then Ricky Starks says, well, if you ever put your hands on me again, yada, yada, yada. So when Yuta says, look, you're an entitled prick. They beat me up every week. I get back up. I don't complain. I don't whine. And they're standing face to face. And then Wheeler Yuta says he wants to fight Ricky Starks on Wrestle Dream. And I say, wait, no. You mean to tell me that Ricky Starks is wrestling Bryan Danielson on television, but when it comes to pay-per-view, he's going to wrestle Wheeler Yuta? Bro, I am mind bottled. Look, I get it. Danielson's doing something else. I understand. Moxley's brain is shattered or something like that. I get it. Wheeler Yuta, though, that is a huge step down. Last week, I was complaining that Ricky Starks wasn't on the show. So I'm kind of like, I don't really want to complain about his opponent because at least he's on the show. At the same time, though, it's Wheeler Yuta. He might as well not be on the show. This might as well be on 0 Hour. He could wrestle this dude on Saturday, and we could find a new opponent for him the next day. Come on, man. Come on, baby. Yeah, cut me some slack. How about just have one less match on the show? Just have these guys wrestle on Collision. Put it on Collision. This should not be on the pay-per-view. Pay-per-view already going to be 10 hours, man. It's already going to be a long night. Why add Wheeler Yuta to the... Jeez Louise, bruh. God damn. In light of Jade Cargill leaving, Ricky Starks reposted a video of him talking about how he's being taken for granted. And he has really leaned into this he might be next kind of deal. And Jade Cargill did mention that Cody Rhodes is one of the reasons why she left. That, you know, her relationship with Cody is one of the reasons why she left. And another one of Cody's good buddies is Ricky Starks. Remember, Ricky Starks went to the Royal Rumble to visit Cody. Now Ricky Starks is pulling an MJF and he's threatening to leave. And you get him on pay-per-view and he's going to wrestle Wheeler Yuta. No. I'm sorry, no. That's kind of dumb. And you're dumb for booking that. Booker of the Year. Stupid. It was stupido. Let's move on. Brian Cage. Nick Jackson and Claudio Castagnoli wrestled in a triple threat match. The winner will face the international champion. The winner of this match was Nick Jackson. Why? I don't know. I don't know, and it don't matter. So Nick Jackson of the Young Bucks is going to wrestle for a title next week. I don't care. Let's just move on. Let's just keep moving. Darby Allin, Christian, and Jim Ross. They had a segment. They sure did. The audio would sound like it was eaten by Daleks from Doctor Who. But for Christ's sake, the audio. What's up with audio issues? All night. It sounded like you were getting transmissions from space. It seems like fucking Venetians were trying to contact us. Like, what the hell is that? You know, like, we picking up stuff from Jupiter or something like that? Are we in NASA? Why your audio this bad? How are you a billionaire? You've been running a wrestling company for 4 years, and your audio is still not only subpar, it's amateurish. I've watched OVW have better, well, no, it has not had better audio. I'm not even going to tell that lie. I can't even tell that lie as a joke. There have been poorer wrestling companies that have better audio than AEW. But from what we can make out, Christian Cage and Darby Allin had a no contact rule so that Christian Cage could say all these crazy things to Darby Allin. First, he claimed that he has been TNT champion for months, so he retained his title instead of actually winning the title. I understand that. That was very cool. Then he says that Darby Allin is not the wrestler, is not the man that he is. He wants to expose Darby Allin because he's the one who asked for this 2 out of 3 falls match, because Darby Allin uses himself as a weapon. He likes to use all these gimmicks. Doesn't think that he's a wrestler he is. Then he started saying that he should bring everybody. He should bring Nick Wayne. He should bring Buddy Wayne. He should bring his uncle, who's dead, and Buddy Wayne's dead. He should also bring Nick Wayne's mama. He should bring all these people. Darby Allin starts yelling about how the dead people don't define him and all this kind of stuff, and he can't lose in Seattle. He won the TNT title in Seattle before. All this stuff. Then he says that Christian can't win this match alone. He should do it without Luchasaurus. And he's not going to bring anybody, so Christian shouldn't bring anybody either. So then Christian starts talking about how Darby is hiding behind the face paint. So Darby gets all twerked up and starts scrubbing his own face with water. You think I'm hiding behind this? You think I'm hiding? I don't hide behind anything. And I'm like, oh my God, he's so animated. At least he's found some emotion in these past couple of years. This still was not a good segment. It wasn't good. It was a waste of JR. You know, poor JR. This segment, this was just a collection of everything that has happened already. Christian talking about smacking on Nick Wayne's mama. You know, she needs to go ahead and let him hit, by the way. She needs to go ahead. Do it for the storyline one time. Darby Allin talking about, you know, how the dead inspire him and all this kind of stuff. It's just, it was weak as far as I'm concerned. Speaking of weak, Orange Cassidy, Matt Jackson, Pentagon Jr., and Austin Gunn had a fatal 4-way match for no reason. And Orange Cassidy won the match. Yay? What was the point of this? I don't care about this. Next, Julia Hart defeated Willow Nightingale with a moonsault. Willow Nightingale was wearing an eye patch because apparently Julia Hart blinded her in one eye. They had a pretty cool spot set up where Julia was going to do a sort of cartwheel or a handstand, and then Willow was going to spear her. But Julia was a little bit off. She was too far away, and that led to Willow having to run a little bit further, and it looked like she got hit with an X Factor rather than her spearing or pouncing Julia. But Julia ends up winning the match with a moonsault. It's fine. After the match, Julia puts Willow in the Heartless and is chased off by Chris Statlander. All right. They're doing some good stuff with Julia Hart. They're actually trying to get her over. They're positioning her as a threat. You know, she's crafty. So that's good. The physically dominant Julia Hart thing, we don't need that. She had to wrestle somebody who was bigger than her, and she modified her style to maintain an advantage. That was good. She brought Willow into the match injured. That was good. We need to do that with Chris Statlander. She needs to attack her before the match or something like that in order to put Chris Statlander, who is bigger, stronger, faster, more experienced, etc., in a hole so that Julia can win or have an opportunity to win. So this was good psychology, at least for what I was paying attention to. And I definitely paid more attention to this than those multi-man matches, that's for sure. All right, so the final segment, which didn't feel like it was going to be the final segment, but it was Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland. So Prince Nana was about to do the Swerve dance, and Swerve stopped him, which was great heel stuff. Oh, that Prince Nana dance was getting over. So Swerve was like, nah, we're going to deny them the Nana dance. And he came out very happy to do it too. He had a big grin on his face. He's like, are y'all ready? Are y'all ready? Right before the beat dropped. And he was like, nah, just get out of here. Very good. So they started getting into the promo part. And I enjoyed it, but I think it went on a little too long. Okay. So Swerve says that he has liked the fire he saw from Hangman Page, but it's too late for that. Then he starts talking about, what's a cowboy to an outlaw? What's a buckshot to a kill shot? And he says that it could have been anybody else whose spot he wanted to take, but it had to be Hangman Page. It just happened to be him. And then he must have a mental problem because he likes waking up every day making enemies. And then he's planning to take his spot at Wrestle Dream because it's going to be in Seattle. His hometown, Swerve's house. Okay? All right, not bad. Hangman Page cut a promo, thanked him for lighting that fire within him, said he felt like a black cloud was following him around for the last year, and that he weathered these storms and he's still here, and the downpour washed out something out of him. Maybe it was passion, maybe it was hope. But you wanted the best out of me. These people deserve the best, so that's what you're going to get at WrestleDream. You're going to get the best out of Hangman Page. Then he starts kind of trying to be an ally to Swerve. Like, you say that you would have been the first black world champion if you would have gotten these same opportunities that I did. But, maybe one day we could work together and those kinds of questions won't need to be asked. It's like, bro, what the fuck? I get it. I get he's trying to be a babyface. He doesn't want to attack, Swerve on a racial level. But you can bypass that by saying there's plenty of other black guys who, have gotten opportunities in this company. They didn't do what I did. So maybe not you in particular. Or take the racial element out of it by saying there's a lot of people who think that they're underutilized, who think they didn't get a lot of opportunities, whether they're black or white or otherwise. There's a lot of people who think I'm privileged, and some of those people think are white. But ultimately, none of you could do what I did. None of you got these opportunities because you're not me. Right? And I made the most out of these opportunities. I knocked them out of the park. That's where he was going with it anyway. So he needed to diffuse the racial element. Instead, he played into it. But then he says that Swerve can't feel his boots. So he signed it. Then Swerve smacked him. Then he stabbed Swerve in the hand with an ink pen. And then referees and etc. separated them. I don't think either one of these guys are a strong enough promo to do a long segment. I give Tony Khan credit for trying, specifically giving these guys so much time. But I don't think it worked to the strengths of both guys for this segment to be so long. And also, Hangman Page has got to, he got to understand that you don't, fall into the heel's traps. You don't tell the heel he's got a good point. That, maybe I am white privileged. It's like, shut the fuck up. It ain't about that. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. Anyway, overall, the show was, I think, a strong go-home show. Especially they leaned very heavily into promos here with Swerve and Hangman and all this kind of stuff. They're building things for the future. They leave you with some questions. Who attacked Jay White? You have to care about Jay White to care about that. And they didn't give you any reason to because they just buried the fucking guy. But they leaned into the Kota Ibushi thing. What kind of shape is Ibushi going to be in for the Wrestle Dream match? So they leaned into story on this episode. The matches made no sense, but they lead into the stories, and that's good. That's a positive. So I'm going to give them credit for that. But I think mostly this episode was kind of flat because I think the MJF Jay White thing, unless it's going to lead to a match, which it doesn't seem like it's going to, dedicating 20 minutes of time to that really made no point. It just was just no purpose to it. Adam Cole being injured, going forward with this goofy ass ROH tag team title match when It seemed like God himself gave you an out so that you can just be like, let's cancel this fucking match and so the righteous won't be on pay-per-view. Instead, we'll do whatever on Collision. And then when it comes to the pay-per-view, we'll do Jay White versus MJF. Okay. I mean, it seemed like God himself is trying to book this show better for you. And you decided, no, I'm still going to be stupid. The temptation to be stupid is too strong. I absolutely, positively have to have the righteous wrestle on this show. It is a must. I promised them. I promised the audience. It's like, I guarantee you, not one person wants a refund if the righteous don't get their match. Not one person. All right? You could easily replace MJF and Jay White and probably sell more tickets. But Tony Khan, Booker of the Year. All right, so let's get into these predictions, man. All righty, AEW Wrestle Dream out of the Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle, Washington, October the 1st, 2023. It is a tribute show for Antonio Inoki, the founder of New Japan Pro Wrestling. All right, the show so far has a setup of 7,566. Then they have distributed 5,393 tickets with 2,173 tickets remaining. So they've sold most of their setup so far, which is pretty good, but having 2,000 tickets remain is pretty crazy. The tickets are moving pretty slowly. And WrestleTix said the last time they were here, they sold 9,000 for a Dynamite. So, well, they're doing okay, I guess. It's NXT level, I suppose, but that's really unfortunate. Climate Pledge Arena. Oh, sure. Okay, whatever. It's Seattle. What can you do? There are 10 matches listed on this show. 10. I say again, there are 10 matches listed on this show. This is a buffet of pro wrestling. AEW always overdoes it. We don't need this many matches. You can cut this card literally in half. And I know it's for $50. You're probably thinking, oh my God, we need to have all the stars. But wait until you listen to this card. I'm not about to go through this joint like Excalibur, though. Match 1. Ricky Starks versus Wheeler Yuta. Doesn't need to happen. Put it on Collision. Put it on Rampage. Just Wheeler Yuta. Ricky Starks is going to win. And if he doesn't win, then I probably will be checking out of this show pretty early. Match 2. A fatal 4-way for the AEW World... Oh, wait. It's a number 1 contenders match for the AEW World Tag Team title. I thought this was a Tag Team Championship match. Jesus. The Young Bucks versus the Guns versus the Lucha Brothers versus Orange Cassidy and Hook. What? Oh my God. Well, Phoenix has a title, so probably not. I'm thinking Orange Cassidy and Hook are going to win. It's a newly formed team, and Tony still wants to get Hook over. He teamed Hook up with Rob Van Dam recently. He wants to get this guy over. Orange Cassidy wants to get him over. They're doing something with the Young Bucks in the future already. The Guns, they're probably not going in that direction again. So I'm going to go with Orange Cassidy and Hook. I don't care about this match either, though. And it seemed like it's just shoehorning the Young Bucks on the card. It's very unfortunate. All right, the third match on the show, Chris Statlander versus Julia Hart for the AEW TBS Championship. Now, this is a good match. Julia Hart has been very impressive. She has really progressed quite a bit, especially in terms of character. She doesn't cut promos, which is actually benefits her character. She doesn't expose her character too much. Chris Statlander is bigger, stronger, more experienced. Makes sense that Chris Statlander will win this match. What do you do with Julia Hart if she loses, however? I don't think you immediately give her a rematch. I think you just... But that's the problem here, is they seem to be fattening her up for the slaughter. And then once she loses, there's no B plot. There's no next level for Julia Hart. There's no next thing for her to do. Unless she's going to be in a longer running feud with Willow Nightingale. Which, that could be the idea. And I don't know. but I don't think so. There's almost never been a second plot for a wrestler once they're done with their push in AEW. But Chris Statlander certainly is going to win. Match was this for Katsuyori Shibata versus Eddie Kingston, a singles match for the ROH World title and the Strong Openweight title. I thought this match was title for title because Katsuyori Shibata is the ROH Pure Championship. And apparently it's not. So apparently the Pure title is going to continue. It was very confusing because I kept hearing both sides. I kept hearing that Shibata's belt is going to be on the line, and I kept hearing that Shibata's belt is not on the line. So the Pure Championship has to be contested under Pure rules. So maybe not. Anyway, Eddie Kingston's going to win because he's putting both of his belts up. So Kingston's going to win. All right. That's fine. You know, Shibata he's working only in AEW, really. I don't think, after his brain removal and then getting it put back in, I don't think New Japan is really trusting him right now. I wouldn't have Eddie Kingston with his fake-ass Japanese wrestling. I wouldn't trust that, especially his overhead throws and stuff like that. I wouldn't trust it, especially if you just had a brain removal and you barely got it put back in. I would question letting Eddie Kingston throw you over his head. So hopefully that won't happen. But Eddie Kingston wants to be I want to be a Japanese wrestler. Like I feel like I need to be reincarnated as Misawa. And okay, sure, whatever. Next, Christian Cage versus Darby Allin. 2 out of 3 falls for the AEW TNT Championship. Okay, this match, interesting. They built it up as Christian has not defeated Darby Allin yet. And Darby Allin has superpowers because he's in Seattle. Can he defeat Christian? And I'm going to go with no. I think Christian finally is going to win this time. I don't see how beating Christian will get Darby Allin more over. You know, I think that he's beat Christian a couple of times already. I think Christian needs this one because whoever is going to take the belt from Christian, presumably Luchasaurus, they're going to need that heat that Christian is going to have in order to capitalize on it. So I think Darby Allin is the lamb that's been fattened up for the slaughter here. He's going to get into this match. It's definitely going to push him to a third fall, and then Christian's going to win. There's definitely going to be some interference too. Definitely. 6-man match, Chris Jericho and the Golden Elite, a.k.a. government name Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi, versus the Don Callis family, Konosuke Takeshita, Sammy Guevara, and Will Ospreay. All right, so this one's a pick'em because Takeshita has beaten Kenny Omega twice. He's beat the tar out of Kota Ibushi in Japan. So that basically leads you to believe that Omega is finally going to get his revenge. I'm thinking his revenge is going to be in some kind of singles match and not in a 6-man tag. Jericho is looking for, recompense for Sammy Guevara, and, Will Ospreay is a mercenary. So I think that the Don Callis family probably needs to win. Specifically, Sammy Guevara needs to beat Chris Jericho, because what is the point of Sammy Guevara turning heel if he doesn't get new levels of success? He has to beat Chris Jericho. So Sammy Guevara needs to pin Chris Jericho in this match. That would mean Takeshita beats Omega again. And then Omega can get his revenge in a singles match. And Jericho and Guevara could continue with another singles match, this time with Guevara being a noticeable, very bad heel. So I'm going to go with there. I'm going to go with the Don Callis family winning. Besides, I'm liking what the Don Callis family is up to right now. Not a big fan of Will Ospreay or Sammy Guevara, but Don Callis and Takeshita, I like them. They're very good. Next, MJF versus the Righteous, Vincent and Dutch, for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles. This feels like somebody's going to come in and try to fill Adam Cole's spot. Like somebody's going to show up and be MJF's friend in this match. Because I don't think they're going to be dumb enough to have a handicap match. And if they're going to be dumb enough to have a handicap match and MJF beats the Righteous, then that's embarrassing for the Righteous. Because MJF is not like, he's not Sid. You know, he's not Goldberg or anything like that. He's a 5'6" midget. He's jacked, you know, for a 5'6" midget, but he's a 5'6" midget. So I'm guessing they're either going to have some outside help and MJF wins, or he cheats to high heel, or they beat the shit out of MJF and win the belts. And I wouldn't do the latter one. If they're going to get the belts, just give them the belts. All right? Yes, it's disrespectful to them to just hand the belts over, but you don't want your world champion getting pinned by Vincent or Dutch. You don't want that visual nowhere. So, and then if let's say MJF wins, he still doesn't have a tag team partner. So what is the beneficial here? Like, what's the point? He still doesn't have a tag team partner even if he wins. So that means he'd have to defend the title again in a handicap match? No. And plus the Kingdom should have won this match anyway. I would cancel this match personally. I would just say this match is not going to happen, folks. Sorry. But since Tony Khan is dedicated to this match occurring, I'm going to go with MJF and a new partner. Maybe somebody that is going to step up and help him out. And he's going to defend the titles on Adam Cole's behalf. Maybe Roderick Strong. Who knows? All right, next. FTR, Cash Wheeler and Dash Harwood versus Aussie Open, Kyle Fletcher and Mark. Kyle Fletcher sounds like an NXT name. Kyle Fletcher, like a jobber from like like a Philly show from WWF. A guy named Kyle Fletcher. What a terrible name. Anyway, FTR is going to win. Who the hell cares about Aussie Open, really? But I could see them putting Aussie Open over because FTR doesn't have any other challengers. So I could see that, okay, we want to have legitimate challengers for FTR. Aussie Open immediately gets back into that conversation if they win the titles. Then you put FTR in the chase position and they can chase Aussie Open. I could see them doing that, and it would make sense to do that. For the sake of the division, you probably need to do that. But I don't like Aussie Open. I'm gonna go with Aussie Open anyway, though. I think for the sake of the division, FTR needs to cough up the belts. Otherwise, once they beat Aussie Open, they've got no challengers left. So unless a new tag team is about to come in, which I haven't heard of one, Aussie Open is going to be their rivals going forward. So Aussie Open. Swerve Strickland, Hangman Page, regular match. Swerve needs to win this match if he's going to be a main event level heel in AEW. He needs to win this match. Adam Page, as a guy who had the new fire lit in him, and the thinly veiled comment about the black cloud, which of course was CM Punk. We all know that, right? The black cloud that was floating over him for a year. To me, I think they did a good job of creating a pick'em situation, because you could be a person like me who likes Swerve, doesn't like Hangman, and wants to see Swerve elevated, which happens if Swerve wins. You could be a person like many of you who are fans of the Elite, and you want to see the new passion, the new fire of Hangman Page thwart, Swerve. And that's fine too. Swerve's going to have the hometown advantage. I think that leads to Swerve winning, because Tony Khan doesn't want to but at the same time, I don't think Tony Khan will want to beat both guys from Seattle, in Seattle. I don't think he will want to do that. So if he's going to beat Darby Allin, which that might happen, then he'll probably have Swerve win. Or it'll be the other way around. I don't think he's going to have everybody lose in their hometown. That's very WWE. Swerve needs to win, though, so I'm going to go with Swerve. But I wouldn't be surprised if Hangman Page won. I expect a good match out of these guys, too. Main event, presumably, Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. Zack Sabre Jr. has not made a single appearance on AEW television. Not one. He's been on Ring of Honor TV. I don't think he's been on AEW television, especially not since this match was announced. He hasn't been on AEW TV. Match banger shit. Hey, just be here and have this match with Danielson. Okie dokie. Whatever you say, bro. Whatever you say, mate. You know, so many Europeans on this show. Ugh. Anyway, I'm going to go with Danielson. I don't see any reason why Tony Khan would put Zack Sabre Jr. over one of his top guys. That doesn't seem like it would make sense. So I'm going to go with Danielson. I have no interest in this match because I don't like Zack Sabre Jr. I really don't like him. Like, I legitimately think he's one of the most boring dudes in the world. You know? When it comes to New Japan talents that are definitely all hype, who are absolutely tofu, Zack Sabre Jr. is at the top of that goddamn list. He is modern day Lance Storm. You know, to me, he is just all the guys at Cage Match and Voices of Wrestling. They love this guy. They give his matches 5 stars and all this shit. And I just say, I don't get how you get it. Look, people like what they like. And sometimes I diss what people like. But if you like Zack Sabre Jr., I don't know what the hell is wrong with you, man. I don't see how you can do it. If you're the kind of person that probably sit and watch some kind of hour-long match between two guys that you don't even know, you know? You just pop on a YouTube video and it's Kyle Fletcher versus Cannonball Marley or some shit from the middle of Iowa pro wrestling, and you'll sit there and watch 55 minutes of that match. So that's how you have to be to enjoy Zack Sabre Jr. Because the guy doesn't actually do anything else, you know? And it'll probably be technically decent, but I'm probably going to fall asleep. This 10 matches on this show. This match number 10 on this show, man. And it was the first match announced. It's the main event. It's what you've been drawing the show on. It's for nothing. Okay, Tony Khan said this match was supposed to... It's a throwaway from Forbidden Door. Oh, this match was supposed to be on Forbidden Door last year, but Danielson was hurt. So it's not even like there's a reason for this other than the boss wants to see it. Okay, fine. Look, I'm bringing the pillow to this one, dog. You know, what are we wearing to Wrestle Dream? Pajamas. Because this is going to rock-a-bye baby. This is going to put me to sleep. I don't know. I'm looking at the card and saying I'm probably going to be asleep within the first 3 matches. Depending on what 3 matches it is. I'm definitely going to be asleep on the main event. I'm definitely going to be prepping my review by the time that main event ends. Because I know it's going to be long. And Zack Sabre Jr. is criminally boring. All right? He's feloniously boring. I mean, the guy's got a personality of a tree stump. I mean, I can't believe this. Ooh, the New Japanification of American wrestling has been one of the biggest crimes against this business in a long time. You got a guy like Eddie Kingston who be a perfectly good brawler. All of a sudden he watches some All Japan nonsense and he goes from being hard dude from the Yonkers. I pull pistols and I rob people. I used to beat up old folks outside the liquor store. Now all of a sudden now he's, you know, he wants to be Shibata. You know, he wants to kick people and do back fists. It's like, bro, get the hell out of here. But now that's bad enough where you basically have gentrified the brain of Eddie Kingston and guys like him who could be interesting dudes in the wrestling space. But you have taken the fans and got people to believe that somebody like Zack Sabre Jr. is a bankable, marketable star. This show needs to lose money. Maybe that will end it. Maybe if this show loses money, then we will learn that people like Zack Sabre Jr. got no business being at the top of the card in a pro wrestling company in the United States. Nobody knows who the fuck he is anyway. All right. Thank you guys for your time. Sorry this video was so long, but I'll talk to you guys later.